welcome to another episode of KickSaga. This is the show where I interview first-time tabletop game designers who are hoping to take their game to Kickstarter and get it crowdfunded. And we're going to talk to them about some of the things they're doing to prepare their game. The thing about this show is we interview folks before they launch their game to talk about what they've done to prepare. And then we have a second interview where we talk with them afterwards and see how the stuff they did panned out, what worked, what didn't work, some of the lessons they learned and stuff like that, in hopes to help those of you who are aspiring game designers out there learn the ropes, learn what works and what doesn't work. And for those of you who are just fans of board games, to kind of see some behind the scenes action of what's happening and how, you know, everyday folks are bringing their game ideas to life on Kickstarter. So I'm real excited for this episode to have the folks behind World Auto Racing on the show. We have Connor and Ocea. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, stoked.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for being here. So I think, you know, we're going to get to, all of the Kickstarter stuff in a little bit. But of course, I just want to start by introducing you guys and letting you guys maybe introduce yourselves to the folks watching and let us know who you are and kind of how you're involved in this project.
Yeah, you want me to go first?
Yeah, dude, go for it.
Yeah, so I'm Connor. I have been doing this project with Ocea and a number of other great people since 2017. And it's been a wild ride. And now we're to a point where we have a pretty good backing and following, and we are feeling really good about our Kickstarter launch. My background is in accounting. The past quite a few years, I was running the finance department of a community action agency, which are anti-poverty agencies throughout the country. I recently left that for a number of reasons, but primarily to pursue this full time,
Nice.
at least through our launch, and see how things are going.
Wow.
And so that's my quick bio resume.
Nice. Yeah, so my name's Ocea. In the real world, I make shoes for a living. In this world, I kind of handle a lot of the creative stuff, card art, design direction, that type of thing. Like Connor said, I mean, we've been working on it for close to 4.5 years now. And I mean, it's just an everyday thing, passion project for us. And we couldn't be more thrilled to get it out there. So, yeah.
Cool. How'd you guys end up meeting or connecting?
We've been friends since high school when we were living in Boise, Idaho. But we both ended up living in Oregon. We're broadcasting here from Portland right now.
Nice.
And we both have always had a lot of drive and entrepreneurship. And so this was kind of an extension of that. And it's the first time we had an idea that we really had the desire to sink our teeth into and really develop something and bring it to market.
Cool. And you had mentioned that it was you and Ocea and some other people. So what other folks are kind of on your team, or who have you worked with to help bring this game to life?
Yeah. There's been so many people, and I swear we're gonna forget somebody. But you know, just to start it off with, the first person we kind of reached out to was Mako Vice. Mako's our artist, super talented. We found them on Instagram when they had 3,500 followers, and just kind of made a deal to do, you know, the first 40 pieces of art. We realized really quickly on that we were just going to have to pay for things that we aren't good at. And so Mako was kind of like our first contractor, and we've been working with them ever since. They've since grown to over 150,000 followers on Instagram. It just kind of blew up, and their art's incredible. Nice. So yeah, so Mako was our first one, and then I reached out to a friend of ours, Ariel, who I worked with a long time ago, and I knew was super into other trading card games, and kind of started the playtesting division with him. And then he just really proved himself to be an invaluable asset in terms of the way he thinks about games and game design, future thinking, future sight. And so we kind of picked him up to actually take on the majority of the development of the actual mechanics, game mechanics, card design, future thought,
balancing,
playtesting. So he ran up playtesting, and one of his good buddies, Austin Robertson, worked on the playtesting, also helped us with font design. We brought in Bo, who's our graphic designer, just crazy talented. So he did the card front design, and just a bunch of our graphics and stuff like that. My buddy Bryce Wong, he did the war logo. We consult with another buddy of mine, Steve Pelletier, who is big in the car community around these parts. Super rad, just cool dude. And then we have George, and he's Oniro, video production, and he did our whole video production and all that good stuff, and just killed it. I mean, his Kickstarter videos are just off the chain. And then there's a ton of people that play tested. So Ariel and Austin, they have a whole group of people that play test for them, with them. And so,
oh man, we've got to be forgetting people though.
Sure.
Yeah.
For some of our technical help, our old friend David Faulkner, that owns his own company, helped with that, especially when we were thinking about making a digital game either first or in coordination with the physical launch. And that didn't end up being what we did for a variety of reasons. But I mean, even back to the early concepts, when Ocea was copy pasting card text from an Excel file into an Illustrator file, and David went, I can write a script for that in a couple minutes. And
Great.
Yeah, so he actually, that was really cool. Before we kind of knew about like the Game Crafter, which is where we started getting our playtest cards made, we had our buddy David actually like wrote a little script so that I could like make prototype cards quickly, and they would populate to like an 11x17 sheet, and I could just go to FedEx or whatever and print them out, and we could just churn through playtesting revisions really quickly. That was a huge help. That was super rad. Really nifty little program.
And apologies to whoever we are forgetting.
Right. I'm sure you'll cover it on the Kickstarter page or something.
Yeah.
So
let's hope.
How many of these people you've mentioned are kind of part of the team that's going to get a percentage of sales from the game, versus folks that you paid up front, versus folks that are just helping out by volunteering, or friends of yours? What's kind of the breakup of that, and how do you make decisions on how that works?
So we have paid essentially market rate up front to almost everyone associated with the project.
Basically everybody we listed off.
The only person other than the two of us that will likely see a direct correlation to the sales is Ariel, the lead game designer. We have an agreement with him. But yeah, everyone else we tried to pay a fair market rate, which was a luxury afforded to us by a couple of things. 4.5 years ago when we started this, it initially started with a New Year's resolution to try and find a hobby that made minimum wage. This is not that.
This has made us no money.
Right.
But
so far,
in the hopes of avoiding putting our own money, which we succeeded at for a while, but now have horribly failed at, we started buying and selling used books. We'd go to library book sales every morning on the weekend, get up at 7 a.m. to be there front in the line. We'd go to estate sales on the last day they were running and ask if we could take the books. So
Yeah.
we kind of hustled our way to the money to pay people fairly. And like I said, that is not a thing that a lot of people are going to want to do. Also, if you want to do a podcast about the used book game, it's changing. I'm sure with COVID, we had stopped when it started.
Huge shout out to all of the book buyers at the used book window at Powell's Books in downtown Portland. They had to deal with me for hours and hours and hours and hours.
all of them that are watching the show.
Yeah.
Shout out
all
to
of
them.
them. Yeah, shout out.
Awesome. Yeah, so it's amazing, like the money pit that this ends up becoming, that you don't even realize at the beginning of you got to pay folks to help you with all the stuff that you don't know how to do, and then of course there's all the other things that go into it, like promotion and that sort of thing that we can kind of dive into next. So you were talking about how you've been working on this since 2017, and you've been building a following and kind of feel like you're at that point now where you can launch it on Kickstarter. What are some of the things you've done in that time to build interest and to build a following of people who would be interested in this game?
So early on, we went to a small gaming convention in Boise, Idaho, which I think is not in existence in its same form, but it was Gen Con. I'm sorry, not Gen Con, Gem Con. Idaho's the Gem State. So it worked well. We could buy a booth, support our hometown's gaming community, and also get to visit our family. So that was one way we did early on. And then we love talking about this, as anybody does about their passion project. And so we have just pitched it to a lot of people, but there's really no substitute in our eyes for paid advertising. And we had a lot of success early on with that compared to what a lot of people say about their metrics. And of course, over time, you find that low-hanging fruit, and then it gets more expensive, and you're all trying to find the secret answer that no one has, because it's different for everyone. Of, okay, I have a person's email. I know how much it costs me to get that email. I don't know how likely they are to back our project. I don't know at what level they might back our project.
Right.
So there's a lot of
it's a whole huge
there.
guessing game, right? And you just don't know.
Yeah.
So when did you start running paid ads? Because I know most people don't start until like they launch their Kickstarter, and of course then it's kind of too late. So so that's the first question, and then the second question is, I'm just curious, where, since you didn't really have a game launched yet, where are you sending people? What are you doing to keep them involved after they click your ad?
Yeah, so pretty early on, we built a website. And so that's where we've been sending people. And our website is pretty simple. It's got, an about page. We've added more to it now. There's a card search function. There's like the deck list function. We've put the art on there. But yeah, we directed people to our website, where the home page has a sign up now for Kickstarter notifications. We've been running ads to some degree for, I think, at least 2 years now.
Wow.
Not spending much, but just kind of the steady eddy of trying to get a few emails a day. And, that's really paid off. And we've got people that message us regularly on Instagram, and say, hey, look, I'm really excited. You're launching, in a week or whatever. And I've been following you guys for a year, for 2 years.
Nice.
And that's really cool to hear. People have stuck with us. So yeah, we've been running ads for quite some time.
And you do get the odd comment of someone that says, what is taking you so long? And, in fairness to them, this is a long time. And
I feel like that's a good question, because they care enough to like be wanting it to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a totally fair question. And I think if people had better eyes on the inside, they would say, oh, this is like a handful of people, and they're
Right.
balancing this with full-time jobs and their other hobbies and interests and families and relationships, and then a pandemic and all of that, you know.
Right.
So I,
Yeah.
I
I
would
mean,
say
go ahead.
I would definitely say like 2 years is probably too long. You know, we started running ads, fell in love with it, just really enjoy all the metrics, everything you can change and tweak, and then of course you're getting messages from people that are like, "Oh wow, this is really cool," and you get to
Nice.
engage with the community that way, which is awesome. I would say 2 years is probably too much. A year would have been nice if we would have taken that whole ad spend and kind of crammed it into a year. Probably would have been a little better, just so people aren't waiting so long, because you know we want to get product to people as fast as we can. So but again, we kind of started doing it and really fell in love with it. So we just kept running
Cool.
them for a
Yeah.
while. Yeah.
And it was working. You know, people were finding
Yeah.
our game, they were excited, they loved the idea, and that
Nice.
felt good to us that we were maybe onto something.
Helps motivate you for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Keeps the fire going when you're going through these kind of this play testing and this development, and it's taken forever to have those. It's almost like a little, endorphin rush or whatever, right? When someone, says they like your game or they're looking forward to it, or you get a new subscriber, and
Yeah.
that's something you want to chase. I can imagine
Absolutely.
that. So as you're building this following, what kind of stuff are you doing to keep them involved or keep them informed? Because I think one of my fears with my game in trying to build my email list too early is that I just have all these people on my email list and then they won't hear from me for a year. And then all of a sudden my game gets launched and they're like, who's this guy? I don't remember signing up for this thing.
Yeah, I'm sure there are people, because we didn't send out an email until 2 or 3 months ago.
Right.
And so I'm sure there were people that got that email and were like, what is this? Is this just a total scam?
People that signed up at Gen Con 4 years ago or whatever.
Because we badgered them as they were walking by our booth. But
That's funny.
we've our engagement kind of matches the individual's engagement. We try really hard to reply to any comment we get on social media, and with the exception if people make negative and unconstructive comments, we try to just ignore that.
Right.
But even if people have a criticism and it's constructive, we want to engage with that person to find out what about this isn't clicking for you. Is it something that doesn't create a detriment to everyone else? Because, not everything's a zero-sum decision. And
Right.
There's a million things I would change, but at
Yeah.
some point you
Gonna
have to click go because you're never going to get it out,
So along those lines, then, what goals did you set to tell yourselves like, okay, now we're ready to launch this thing?
We picked a date,
Yeah.
Okay.
and then it was like,
Yep.
I think we can do this.
I think we
Yeah.
can do this. And there's some slack time. And then a month later, there's a little bit less slack time.
Right.
And then 2 months, you're like, there's really not a lot of slack left in here. So that's what this year's been all about. But everybody's really pulled together well and
Nice.
and been good sports when we've crunched them on time more than they would like.
And a lot of it too
That's cool.
is project management, right? Like, okay, I know the factory is going to take this long to produce it. We've been working with them. We've got to make a box. We've got to make a rules manual. We've got to get the graphic design done for that. We've got to send it to the factory. We've got to get the proofs, the print sheets back. We've got to review those, approve those. We know their production timeline is 2 months. Shipping is going to take X amount of time. So from kind of those logistical things, you can work back and give yourself a rough estimate, pad it, add some time in there. And then working with our artists, working with Mako, saying, hey, we've got, a need for 40 more pieces. How long is this going to take you? Can we close out your commissions for a couple months and get these done? And so kind of building that time frame. And, we did that as we were realizing that we were closer to launch. We kind of built out that time frame with all the moving pieces and said, okay, I think we can hit this launch date, our best estimate. So then once we had that date set, and we probably had the November 2nd date, November generally, but November 2nd set at least a year ago, and then began to plan off of that. So as stuff really started to come together, and just building that project plan and working back from it.
And to step back on that, there's something we're doing very differently from the typical Kickstarter. Since we are first-time creators, and this is a collectible card game, we had to be mindful of that trust building with potential backers, and also creating a level of collectability. So we actually ordered, and they've been manufactured, the first editions of the game already.
Oh, okay.
And so obviously that's very different from the typical model where you've got stretch goals that are literally changing components within the game.
Yeah.
And obviously tons of people have done that and been really successful with that. And we've gotten pushback from some people that it's like, wait, so it's canned? We want it to grow from here. We want to be adding cards and all that. And we made choices about quality that are sometimes the things you see as stretch goals that we just did off the bat. Some of our cards are foil effect. We used a high quality 310 GSM black core paper. We have a UV printing effect on the back that gives a texture, so it's got a nice tactile feel.
Cool.
So we tried to be mindful of the fact that since we weren't offering that piece of gamification within the campaign, that those things people would hope and expect within a stretch goal are already included in that product.
And so our stretch goals were really based around world building and how can we bring like a more complete world to the consumer. So manga, anime pilot are some of our big ones. Foreign translation, things like that, developing
companion app
to help with the game. So kind of developing and bringing people more into the world, which we want to create, and we're super stoked about. And that's kind of where we put our stretch goal focus.
And then we also have some silly things like
there's some silly ones,
like the person that designed our logo, which is our card back. He also does tattoos on the side. So if we raise enough funds, we'll be getting World Auto Racing tattoos.
Love it.
If we raise a lot of funds, we're going to let the community have some input on what those World Auto Racing tattoos will be.
That's
so
cool.
We're trying to have fun with it and try to still reward people for our success, but just a little bit different model than what you typically see.
Couple things I really like about that approach are, number one, backers know that they're going to get a high quality product out of the gate versus, the way other games do it, where you're starting with kind of the basic lower quality game and then hoping to get to that higher quality through stretch goals. And so when you back it, you're not sure if that's going to happen, if you're backing it early, especially. So I like that, from day one that you're going to get a high quality components in that game. And that I like that. Also, when you send it out to reviewers, and that's going to be my next question, but I'm sure when you send it out to reviewers or have other people play test it, they're going to have these high quality components that they're using versus, some other games that might be sending out prototypes or that base, non-deluxified version of the game. So what has your approach been to finding reviewers and folks to cover? I noticed, I saw Rado runs through it, covered it here recently. That's very cool. So how have you identified folks to review it, and what's that process been like?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. A couple of our reviewers still send their videos because there are some that have been released like that it is a prototype. And that's fine because we hope to sell enough that we'll be ordering more than the first edition, and there's some cleanup we'll do, so it's still kind of true. But that's been kind of a funny thing
They're
that's
just
happened.
so used to saying that. It's just like,
Yeah.
they just say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Funny.
so finding reviewers, we just kind of did some research, did some Googling. We posted on Facebook. There's a board game marketing group that's fairly sizable. Some reviewers found us through that. And it's funny, we have had some people approach us after we've gotten that lined up, and mostly haven't been able to work with them because we have a limited number of pre-units, because actually our units just got done manufacturing and are in the process of freight now, which is very screwed up right now.
Mess. Yeah.
And, you know, we were hoping we'd be able to deliver those first editions by Christmas. We've had to backpedal a little bit, and now we're saying February.
Yep.
We're going to do our best to get them earlier. We think they might get delivered to us in mid-December. So still don't want to promise Christmas. We're not going to promise January because we don't want to promise anything we're not confident we can meet. But
that's still great, though, that
is.
you know, folks are used to waiting, you know, a year or more after they, you know, back a Kickstarter. So to have it, you know, that early, even if it's still a little bit delayed from that original estimate, I think folks will be thrilled with that.
And we definitely had to make it clear to the factory that we wanted to get units early to get to reviewers, because they're not typically used to splitting their shipments like that. So we had about 30 of the production units made and shipped early, even direct to some of the reviewers, and then that way they could have them and go through with the actual components and everything like that. So that was big for us, and we were stoked to make that happen.
Although there was still one pitfall on that, which we have a custom shrink wrap with our logo on it. And because those units that got shipped out were the first ones manufactured. And our manufacturer contracts out with another manufacturer for that shrink wrap. And that manufacturer, oh no, did I go silent? My computer died, so I can't hear anymore. But our manufacturer had a contract with another manufacturer who, instead of printing our logo white, print our logo black. Not the end of the world, but the box is black, so black logo on a black background is not going to give the effect we were looking for. But the bigger problem was they printed it on the inside of the shrink wrap. And so they do this heat shrink wrap, and this Black War logo is staining onto the box. And so it's like, no, that's not going to work. So those copies we sent out to the reviewers actually were just on standard shrink wrap. Even that had some pitfalls.
Wow. So you can't hear me.
I can hear you well enough through his headphones.
Okay. Cool. So let's talk about the Kickstarter page. How did you decide, you know, what information to put on there? What did you need, like, in your mind, had to be on there in order for people to understand what the game was? What was kind of your thought process on putting that page together?
Yeah, so we were really lucky to find, you know, kind of referenced some of the Kickstarters we had loved in terms of their pages. Actually Connor reached out to George at Oniro, who has designed some very high profile Kickstarter videos. And we just reached out to George and said, hey, we like your work. And he was kind enough to accept a small fry like us. And from then on, it was just a wonderful relationship with George. Working with him has been awesome. And he helped guide us, and kind of some of his previous work helped guide us. So we kind of said, okay, look at this. We can use this as a template, as a format. We know we don't want it to be very long. We kind of wanted to keep it, and it ended up being, you know, it's decent length, but we wanted to keep it simple. We have 4 tiers. You can add on extra packs. We only have 4 tiers. And we wanted to have a cool video, so that was big for us. So we came up with kind of a little script for the video, got some extra artwork from our artist to kind of make the intro exciting, and then had a great playthrough with a terrific voice actress who's phenomenal doing the voiceover. And then from there, it was kind of a lot of guess and check and reviewing what we had written with friends, with people who had worked on the project. And then Connor and I kind of, we haven't mentioned this before, but Connor and I talk on the phone. We live about an hour apart. We talk on the phone at least an hour a day about war specifically. And so we're just constantly bouncing ideas back and forth. And I think we must have reviewed the Kickstarter page, 10 times or more, just making revisions, seeing what looked right, and then getting all that info to George. And he ran with it and did a phenomenal job.
I think I've heard Ocea order a 12-ounce oat milk mocha with whipped cream, as backwards as that is. I think I've heard him order that 1,000 times on the other side of a phone call.
They have Oatly. Right. They have this oat milk that I've fallen in love with, that I cherish it, and I can't live without it. So yeah, I enjoy my coffee for sure.
That's funny. I love it. That's cool. Great. So let's we're getting ready to wrap up here. Let's talk numbers, and then we can learn more about your game and how people can where people can find it. So where are we now? Rough estimate with folks who are following your Kickstarter page.
So I don't know the Kickstarter pre-launch number off the top of my head, because we only launched that a day or 2 days ago. But our email list is well into the 5 figures. It's hard with duplicates and stuff, but I think we're around. When I sent an email the other day, I think it delivered 14,000, which
that is amazing.
Blows us away that so many people like our idea. But then on like social media, we have 4,400 followers on Instagram and 1,300 on Facebook, I think.
And 100 on TikTok.
And something like 100 on Twitter. So,
Nice.
Our Discord has about 250 members, and that is such a phenomenal platform for building a community where people can talk to each other. I mean, we've got people at this point who will help answer questions if somebody has a question. People wanting to sign up for an ambassador program to kind of help us work with shops, run tournaments, that type of thing.
People getting home from work and saying, anybody on that wants to play on Tabletop Simulator?
Yeah, we found Tabletop Simulator probably about 6 months ago, and it's a phenomenal platform for kind of play testing your game, letting people, totally people you've never met before, blind test your game. And so we put all 5 decks are up there. You can go play right now if you feel so inclined. So that's been a phenomenal platform. So I enjoy the Discord quite a bit. It's new for us, but it's really great for community building.
Right. That's cool that it connects kind of into Tabletop Simulator. So there's that kind of symbiotic relationship. So you can get people talking about the game as they're playing it and going back and forth. And that's very powerful. I agree. It's cool.
Yeah.
Have you guys used Board Game Geek at all for any? Have you created a page there and tried to interact with folks?
Yeah, so we have a page on Board Game Geek. One thing we found, and we have theories and wonder if it'll change when the Kickstarter's out, but the area where we get the most traction with people is not necessarily people that are deep within the board game culture. We get a lot of people that maybe played Pokemon or a Magic or a Yu-Gi-Oh when they were kids, but now they're older. It doesn't feel right to them, but now they're into cars and they feel like this speaks to them in a way that nothing really out on the market does. And so we have a Board Game Geek page. Please check us out there, but it's not actually the place where we've seen the most engagement from the people that are interested.
Yeah, I mean, one interesting thing, Connor ran this number the other day, was I think on our email list, 5% of the people on our email list have previously backed a crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah, and that's through
Wow.
BackerKit's launch system, because
Mm.
BackerKit has an email notification system, and they kind of go, okay, well, we know of these email addresses you put in.
Yeah.
We've seen X% back before.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
I don't know if that's a high or a low number. I think it's probably fairly low.
Yeah.
So that's going to obviously be one roadblock for us, is just people that aren't familiar with crowdfunding.
Right.
Are they willing to take the leap of, oh, I'm not going to get this product for a few months still? And just the whole, it's different than your typical e-commerce experience. And
Sure. So
so
there might be some extra education you have to do throughout the process to
yeah, and
guide
so our
them.
emails, we really try to, explain this is how Kickstarter works. And, with us having ordered units and all that and the size of our list, um, you know, as is true for so many Kickstarters that have invested in marketing from a monetary standpoint, we've set a goal that we know we're going to meet, not to be flip about it.
Right.
But, right. So it's like, well, we know it's going to fund. We're going to collect your pledge, but, that's not going to happen until the end of the campaign. And then you're going to start getting emails from us from this thing called BackerKit, and we're going to ask
Yeah.
you to give your shipping info. And so it'll be interesting, and that's definitely something we're going to have to be mindful of, and make sure people really understand the Kickstarter experience.
Well, I love the confidence, and if I had 14,000 email subscribers on my list, I'd be confident too. That's amazing, and I'm excited to watch what happens, with this project after it funds. So why don't you tell folks about the game, what it is, kind of a little bit, just a little preview of the gameplay and all that stuff, and where folks can find you.
Yeah, so World Auto Racing is a collectible card game all about car racing. You start the game with a car in play. It's got a power stat, a handling stat. You can install mods that boost these stats, give you special abilities. You fight over a shared course and condition with your opponent. So you're going back and forth trying to control the track. You've got team cards, control cards, trait cards, all these things that you can play to help kind of win the advantage. Some of them mess with your opponent. Some of them boost your own stats. Some of them give you special abilities. Our game counts up. So the progress, every round you're scoring progress towards a goal of 100. So you're not trying to knock your opponent down so much as kind of build your own score. And we don't have any energy or type of source. What we ended up doing was the card types are the action economy, as our lead game designer likes to refer to it. So you can play one of each card type per round, except for control cards. They are slightly less powerful. You can play as many of those as you want. And you and your opponent actually take turns playing back and forth. So in one round, I'll play a card, my opponent will play a card, I'll play another one, my opponent will play another one, and we'll kind of take these actions back and forth until both of us are kind of out of actions, out of cards. Then we'll pass, the round will be over, we'll calculate our progress, and then we'll move on to the next round.
And with this Kickstarter release, it's what people will be ordering is 5 pre-constructed decks that once you get the hang of it, or depending on your familiarity, you might just do it right out of the gate. You can mix and match to make your own decks.
Nice.
And something that's important to us moving forward, that has been a great thing to have community engagement on, is, people really don't like pay to win element of trading card games,
Yeah.
where if I want to be competitive, I need to invest literally hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. I don't think you can be competitive in Magic the Gathering Legacy tournaments without spending literally thousands of dollars,
Right.
especially with the uptick in card prices the past few years. So we're determined, as we continue to develop the game, to continue releasing all of the cards in pre-constructed deck type situations, and then adding additional collectability by doing things like booster packs, but rather than those being cards you chase for their gameplay effect, they're cards you chase for because it's alternative art and it's just so cool, or it's a really neat foil effect, or oh, that
like
person
that.
I follow is somehow represented, or it ties back into the game lore. And so trying to draw into the things that make things collectible besides this is powerful in the game. So we've
Right.
always kept a mind to trying to eliminate the bad feels with the games we grew up and we loved.
Yep.
You know, whether it's having a handful of cards you can't play because you don't have the mana, um, or you know, always being trying to knock your opponent down rather than build yourself up, or
I like it.
being able to get the cards you really need to play the deck you want to play. So, and I'm sure there are other things I'm forgetting where we've tried to have that in mind, but that's really been our mindset in the game design and development front.
That's oh, I love that. So you're kind of trying to get rid of the stuff that, you know, that's kind of a downer in those types of games, and just focus on the positive and the building up and the fun aspects of those collectible card games. So I love it. I'm super excited to see where this goes. So folks, if you're interested in this, we will have a link to their Kickstarter page below this video. We'll also have a link to their website and some of the other resources we talked about in this video. Well, Connor and Ocea, I thank you again for this interview, and I'm super excited for your launch. Good luck, and we'll circle back with you in a month or so to see how things went.
Perfect. We can't wait.
Yeah, dude, so stoked. Glad to talk to you. Look forward to talking again after the Kickstarter.
All right, guys.